Mobile Suit Gundam SEED has always been known for having some of the most over-the-top and the craziest cool Gundam designs. Whether you are a fan of the show or not, you've got to admit that the designs are just so awesome. Now Bandai has even broken the mold once again with this brand new high-grade release, the aptly named Black Knight Squad Shi-ve-A. What can I say about this kit? It looks incredible. Aesthetically, we've got those classic Amatsu Mina colors, a gold frame, and overall a Black Knight almost Valkyrie kind of look over a Gundam style mobile suit. When it comes to the accessories, you will not be left wanting, except maybe for a nice gold expressive hand. But besides that, we've got 3 beam sabers, an armor-cutting sword, a really interesting shield with claw segments, as well as one over-the-top beam cape. Finally then, when it does come to the articulation of this kit, it may not be quite as good as what we saw with the high-grade Rising Freedom and Immortal Justice, but it's almost as good. Just lacking a little bit in the legs, but besides that you will get incredible poses out of this ridiculous looking Black Knight. It is kind of weird to say, but this is 4 out of 4 now for Gundam SEED Freedom, where I've ranked the kit Platinum tier, because it is almost perfection and one I highly recommend. It looks insanely cool. Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at this right here. This is the newest release from the Gundam SEED Freedom line, and this is the high-grade Black Knight Squad Shi-ve-A, a very ridiculously unique and over-the-top looking mecha from the Gundam universe. This, I have to admit, has me very excited. Anyway, if you do want one of your own, I got mine through those awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan. Link is down there in the description. Now let's check it out. So as usual, before we get into the aesthetics of this kit right here, it's time to get those accessories off of it so we can take a look at them separately later. And first off, it's time to wind back a little bit to what this kit was like to build, because this was phenomenal. Now when it comes to this kit compared to the last two, the Justice and the Freedom, I don't see as much kind of talk online about it at all, which is a little bit on the sad side considering how ridiculously cool this is. It's a nice kit, does have some down points, mainly sticker wise, but this is so unique and so cool in a ton of different ways. First off, in here you get the usual amount of plastic you would, in a lot of kind of unusual colors, not usually what we would see. A lot of kits tend to bring their kits from a kind of traditional or other mobile suit zone when it comes to color schemes, and this has a little bit of the kind of Amatsu Mina kind of flair. This is in black, gold, red and grey, and looks, well, the plastic here looks phenomenal. When it comes to the build, this is pretty cool. We do have a gold frame in a very strike freedom-y kind of way, which is quite unique and does bounce off the black very nicely. This builds up just like we would have seen with the SEED Freedom kit so far, so that's no full inner frame, but we do have joint armor parts, and lots of nice details, especially in the lower legs, forearms, and inside of the chest. All of the parts build up quite nicely. I will mention the black in here does mark quite a little bit, so you're going to have to approach this in a kind of smart way to make sure that you don't end up screwing up the exterior plastic, so I do recommend a glass file working with this right here. Like I mentioned, the parts build up in the usual kind of way, very similar to the kits we would have seen so far, especially when it comes to the joints, but the most unique aspect of this is the head and the chest. The chest has some opening compartments which have a lot of detail in them, a lot of nice small parts for building up, a lot of nice layering too. The head is incredibly detailed, very nice, no color separated eyes sadly. You do have to use a sticker, and speaking of stickers, there is a massive sheet of stickers in here, which is definitely the worst aspect about it. Once again, just like the Freedom, the Rising Freedom, this is very color inaccurate, especially on the actual mobile suit itself, which is a little bit of a letdown. But anyway, speaking of that mobile suit, let's jump on in to the aesthetics. So first off, jumping into the aesthetics, and Bandai have definitely gone out on a limb here and tried something a little bit almost risky with this design. It is incredibly unique for a, well, Gundam style kit, while at the same time having a lot of familiar aspects to it. First off, it is, in general, Gundam shaped. If you painted this in Gundam colors and gave it a Gundam mouth, it would have the Gundam look. The color scheme it's draped in is ridiculously cool. If you squint hard enough, you might actually even think you're looking at a variant of the gold frame Amatsu Mina. It's all gelled together in such an incredible way that looks like nothing I have ever seen before. And usually when it does come to kits that are this unique, they usually don't get the same level of quality that we've seen from the full release or the main Gundam suits. This has all of that quality. Now I'm going to jump right on into first, the one and only issue with this kit. And that, of course, just like with the Rising Freedom, is this right here. It has a colossal sheet of stickers. Now, as for the ones that I did use, all I used were the ones that were from the eyes and the head cameras, or even head cameras, should I say, up here in the top left. That is 3 stickers only. This one right here, that one right beside, that is an option. But the rest of them I did not use because I didn't want to clutter up such a nice kit by using color correcting stickers. Once again, this is what the whole sheet looks like just out of the box. Now, this, if nobody said anything to you, I know it goes for me. If nobody said anything to me about this kit, I wouldn't have even paid too much attention to the fact that it is missing stickers, because it is absolutely gorgeous and it has a ton of color separation already. It almost seems like this is almost a little bit overkill. Like, where is it actually missing red? And it turns out the answer to that, after taking a leaf through the manual right here, is on the backpack. So on these little sections right here, these should be red around the thrusters, kind of like it is in the center right there. So that is the only kind of real missing red section on this. Overall though, it does seem a little bit like overkill, I guess. Let's go through them. First off, 5 and 6, those are meant to be on what can only describe as its cheeks. The little sections towards the cheek guards, as you would on this, they're meant to be in a dark grey. Good news, as the torso on this kit does not require any stickers whatsoever, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Those cannons or Vulcan things in the upper chest look amazing. The color separation in the red sections, fantastic, and those do open up almost heavy arms wise, just like this. No Gatlings though, but still a pretty cool little gimmick right there. The arms as well, those have completely avoided the need for stickers as well, which means I assume they're color accurate right out of the box, and again, some nice color separation. I'm sad that these little sections don't move. This one right here does, and there's some really nice layering, and the build on the forearm is extremely enjoyable. Still more good news as we work our way through. There is no stickers required on the skirting armors, as you can see, very nicely separated into the grey sections on the end, the black armor, and a standard butt flap back here with a removable section right here for attaching on the weapons, which we'll see a little later on. Now the legs on here, these are absolute sticker hell. So there's basically a whole ton of colors missing from the legs. I guess they wanted super detailed legs on this thing. And as for this raised section right here, this required sticker 13 and 14 depending on the leg, which is just to add a little bit of a gray ridge to this section right here. But it does have the black section from the middle also. Down here now, all those little raised little armor sections, they all need those tiny little pieces on both legs, from 18 all the way through 25 to get them into just a lighter grey. That'd be easy to paint in yourself with a light grey Gundam marker, so it seems Bandai kind of chose smart aspects to be color inaccurate. Personally, I think it looks fine anyway, but I did notice from the manual and the images of this, that little emitter right here for the beam kicks, that is meant to be in the nice gold. That is sad that that is not present. No sticker either. I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit forgiving when it comes to stickers round back, so the stickers on the backpack don't bother me too much. Now we're meant to have, like I mentioned already, the red section for right here, which is sticker 12 and 11, depending on the side, and we are meant to have a little bit of grey down on these segments right here, courtesy of stickers 16 and 17. It didn't seem that important to me, and I'm not sticking stickers on something that is, well, somewhere that when it's on the shelf, you're just not going to see. Next up, the feet back here are not color accurate either. I will mention these thrusters look amazing coming out from underneath the black. These are parts separated and just look so good. But as for the heels, I forgot to wipe off a little bit of panel line goo. But we are meant to have some black as of number 9 on that heels section right here, the upper part. That is meant to be in black. And these sections in here need to be color corrected as well with stickers 8 and 10. So yeah, that's what's color inaccurate, but honestly, to me, it doesn't make a huge difference. But yeah, at the end of the day, it all comes down to your own preference. And speaking of my own preference, I don't know why I didn't use these little triangles right here. Let's get them on. Now, when it comes to sticking on stickers, I will mention that I always use a toothpick, just a simple wooden average toothpick. And the reason for that is I find anything made of metal, like a knife, hobby knife, X-Acto knife, even tweezers, the stickers tend to adhere to it too much, and it's just too kind of difficult. Whereas you can just kind of just pop it on with one of these, and it just doesn't stick too well, the stick. And I get a much higher chance of getting it stuck on properly and not getting stuck to the, well, knife or floating off somewhere random to be lost forever. So I recommend the humble toothpick. Anyway, jumping into that full 360-degree spin, now I'm going to be showing this with the backpack and without the backpack so you can see what this particular mobile suit looks like. Sometimes the backpack, I find, throws you off a little bit when you're trying to look at just the general look and the general unit itself. I have to admit, I am super impressed by this. It's got that kind of Zaft mobile suit kind of vibe to it, like any of the Gundams, but the new kind of overhaul of colors just makes it ridiculously cool. The kind of Knight or Valkyrie kind of aesthetic with the dark colors, the gold frame makes this look like absolutely nothing else. Nice parts layering and some nice part separation. Like I mentioned, if you did not know about the fact that this is not color accurate, it would look like it was 100% color accurate. It's just a very nice looking kit, very nice angles, nice shiny blacks, and even though I did mention earlier on that they, well, nubbed up quite a little bit while nipping it out, as usual, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of those actual nubs or gate marks right now that I did see when I was building it, as in they are hidden quite well. Anyway, let's get into that size comparison. So when it does come to the size of the Shi-ve-A right here, this is 19.27 meters tall, making it a good deal, not a huge deal, but a good deal taller than your average size Gundam, especially the smaller ones that we see in Seed Freedom. So this is a large enough mobile suit. So first off there, for a little bit of a size comparison, is it beside the high-grade Immortal Justice and the high-grade Rising Freedom from the exact same movie? As you can see, it's quite a good deal taller. Once again there from the usual angle, as you can see, it's almost a full head taller than those two mobile suits. Next up, as for some more size comparisons, there it is beside the high-grade Hejiroboshi from Iron-Blooded Orphans and the real grade Force Impulse Gundam Spec 2 from the Seed Freedom movie. Beside two high-grade Witch from Mercury kits, being the high-grade Caliban on the left and the high-grade Aerial Rebuild on the right. Next up, beside the high-grade Gundam Barbatos and the high-grade Gundam Exia, the high-grade Oryx 78-2, as well as the high-grade Gundam Maxter. So as you can see, pretty big. So jumping right on into the accessories, and here's everything that comes inside the box with the high-grade Shi-ve-A, and this is quite the loadout, and a good bit different from your standard Gundam loadout. So what we get in here is not just 2 but 3 beam sabers. We've got 2 beam effects for using with the feet for some kick beams. We've got a blade, a shield, 2 little sections for using with the shield because there is a part that has a bit of a remote weapon. We have that beam mantle in here, which I'm excited to try out. And one of the coolest aspects in here is you get so many beams in here, you do get some spares. Some Bandai kits don't come with beams, so it's nice to have some spares. And that is a standard regular beam and 2 flat Gundam Age or Gundam 00 style beams, and these are in red, which is a very unusual color. Anyway, this is what we got. Let's check everything out one by one. So sadly with this kit, and just like in the aesthetics, there is one kind of aspect bringing this kit down from perfection. With the aesthetics, of course, it was that big sheet of stickers, and when it comes to the accessories, the biggest issue in here is the fact that, well, we have no alternative hands. Just these blocky standard holding ones, which is always a disappointment. So this is what we have. They are in gold, so it does mean getting yourself something widespread or dynamic to use with it isn't as simple as a kit with some gray hands, and where, you know, you can go out and grab one of Bandai's option sets which has a bunch of gray hands in it. That is not the case here. Just these golden hands, and that is all. Maybe you can steal something from a Strike Freedom or something else, but this, it would have been nice just to have at least, you know, the left hand in a widespread. So the Shi-ve-A right here is a kit that comes with not just 2 but 3 beam sabers. And you might be like, well, what does it do? Does it One Piece Zoro it in its mouth or what, but no, actually, it's kind of just taking advantage of the very Gundam Seed Destiny Beam Saber gimmick. So first off, we'll just go with the standard attachment of getting these popped into the hands. So you don't have to pop the back off the hands to get these attached. So there is one, there is the second, so they pop in fine, hold in pretty well. And the reason for the third Beam Saber is, well, that kind of beam glaive sort of thing that Gundam Seed Beam Sabers do. So that means these are the type of beam sabers that can be attached end to end, just like so. So you've got yourself a double beam saber and a standard beam saber at the same time. So getting into a bit of a pose with the beam sabers, and I will mention a couple of things. First off, the stand I usually use with these kits is Good Smile Company's simple stands. These are awesome, 3 for about €12 or so, so you're getting about, actually it's probably less with the exchange rate right now, so you're getting these at about $3 or €3 a pop. However, I will mention there is another little bit of an issue right here, and that's we've got a solid butt flap right here that doesn't move at all. It's very large too, so that means even with any kind of stand, even Bandai stands, this might get in the way a little bit. I just turned the stand around a little bit like so, but you might be better off with an Action Base 4 with this right here. Getting this into a pose is very nice. The side skirtings are a little bit on the loose side, so pop off quite a bit, but besides that, it's nice and fluid. The big old shoulders, even at first, they do feel like they'll get in the way a little bit. They don't really tend to once you kind of get used to the way the shoulders do move. So overall, pretty good so far, and that is it in a little bit of a pose with the beam sabers, looking ridiculously cool. Also, red beam sabers, quite unique. So when the beam sabers are not in use, they can be stored in the side skirts. To do that, you just pop off the beams just like so. And then on the side skirts, I will mention these fall off quite a bit. That's why I have it detached. You just remove this little panel here. We've got a couple of tabs on the left hand. Well, it's left hand one that you can pop the beam saber handles onto just like so. They hold in perfectly. Then you pop the piece of plastic back. The same on the other side, except it's just the one beam saber on that side. And even though this isn't the most fluid in and out motion to get them in and out, I think the fact that they actually hold in well and won't fall off, well, the beam sabers that is, the side skirts do, is more important than being able to access them all of the time. Next up in here, we've got these beam effects right here. Now, these are the type that you'd usually see with say something like the Gundam Exia or some of the age kits for these shorter beam blades. Getting these attached into the feet is super simple. You just pop them in just like so into the tips of the feet, and that's what they look like. The section around these, the emitter or whatever you'd call it, that's meant to be in gold, so you will have to detail that up yourself. And once you get this into a pose, it does look pretty cool. Again, these aren't as fancy as some of the other beam effects you would have seen with some Seed high grades. When it does come to weapons like Kicky ones or Shins or whatever, they are just kind of rehashes from Age or 00 kits, but they still work out quite well. So getting into the serious weapons now, and first up we've got this right here, which is the close-in anti-armor blade Dispater. So this doesn't really do much, it's just a grey blade like you're seeing there, and a red handle which is 2 parts attached together. But does take some nice, almost design elements from one of my all-time favorite weapons, the GN sword. Getting this attached in is quite simply just pop the back off of the hand as usual, pop it into the hand, it holds in tight so it doesn't wiggle around when you're trying to do this, pop the back of the hand back on, and this is what it looks like once it's held. Now this is a very simple weapon, it doesn't do anything at all besides be a big old blade, and it is a really nicely designed cool blade at that. Well, what can I say? There it is in a pose, there it is looking absolutely killer, and on to the next weapon. The next piece of equipment we have in here is the Rock Shield Svarog. So this is a very nice shield. First off, we got red, black, and the light gray on this side. Flip around, we do have this little piece for attaching in. It's a ball joint attachment into the back of this, so it can flip and change around. And that little bit there, of course, is for attaching into the back of the forearm. We do have a molded in handle here, which always looks a little bit not cool. But when it does come to moving parts, this has these opening sections right here, which give me real death side hell energy. And we do have a additional smaller one around here that does disconnect, which we'll talk about in a second. So when it comes to attaching this on, like I mentioned, it is that peg into a slot on the back of the forearm. However, I will mention the big old shoulders with the feathery looking sections and this shield do kind of clash quite often, especially because we do not have a forearm rotating part to make sure that this is out of the way. Actually, the shield doesn't rotate around the forearm in any kind of way, and the forearm doesn't rotate, so it does mean there is a lot of clashing and not a lot of actual movement to avoid that from happening. Anyway, this is what it looks like attached on, and it is a really cool shield, especially with this nice opening claw section down here. And like I mentioned, this segment up here, this can be removed just like so. It's just a grey little section like so. Again, opening like that. and around here we do have a bit of an attachment point for attaching in this included wire. Now, first off, we've got this gray segment here, which attaches into this just like so. So this is nice and detailed. And this part right here then attaches onto the rear of the shield, a little something like that right there. Then you can just kind of get it into position just like so. This wire is a bit on the small side, but it can hold it up absolutely perfectly. And that right there is what it looks like in a little bit of a pose, blasting out that little anchor to grab an enemy. So finally now onto the last accessory, and one of the most unique aspects of the whole thing, and that is the energy mantle. So it does have a kind of almost like flame effect on it. It does have sharp edges, which is, I don't know, kind of funny looking. It's just a bit of plastic like so. One side is shiny, the other side is matte. So again, this attached on is quite simple. First off, you'll remove the backpack, and I will mention that underneath this single hole adapter segment that we have for attaching this backpack on, we also do have this standard double hole. So that does mean you can use this with any modern high grade of your choosing, as long as it has the double hole backpack, and the same goes for this using other backpacks. Anyway, getting this attached on, you just have to remove the front segment of these pieces. You don't actually have to remove the pieces from the backpack, I just did it for clarity. And then you just pop on the beam mantle like so and close the parts back up. This is what it will look like if you're doing it while the wing little segments are still attached onto the backpack, and there it is all closed up, and you pop it onto the back of the Shi-ve-A just like so. Now this is kind of a weird little thing. It's always very blocky, square looking. You can't actually get it to fold in any kind of unique kind of way. But the weirdest aspect is these little wing sections inside of it have a flapping mechanism. They can move pretty much all over the place. There's a full rotation to both of them and a flapping mechanism. But it's all blocked by these thruster sections right here, and they all kind of get in the way of each other in a very strange sort of almost badly designed kind of way. It's limited by the fact that there's, well, too many moving parts or too little moving parts for this to work or not work. However, that little bit of a single peg attachment that this has does mean you can actually rotate it off to the side, so it does look like it's kind of moving along flap-wise just like so. So it's not too bad. This kind of weird fade right here to the edge makes it look like, you know, it's energy, but then you see the edge of the acetate or whatever it is like so. It's a weird design. So finally now onto the articulation. The usual comment on the build, this is rock solid, quite lightweight too, so it does feel like it will hold pretty much every single pose. The only thing that kind of pops off quite often is these side skirts, which aren't, well, I don't know. They're kind of like what we would have seen on the Immortal Justice, that they just don't hold on that well for no particular reason at all. But anyway, test pose. So when it comes to the articulation on this particular kit right here, it is incredibly good. It gets down nice into the test pose right here, and it is incredibly dynamic. We've seen a few poses throughout the review so far, and it pulls them off incredibly. Now there is a couple of mild issues. Now for example, the feet don't really turn in that much. There's not a whole lot of pivot because it's blocked by this armor, and unlike what we saw from the other two high grade releases from this line, this does not have that cool sliding up and down gimmick in the waist unit there at the hips to kind of bring this up a little further, so it does get mildly blocked. Anyway, let's take a look at everything one by one really quickly. At the neck here, we do have a nice giggity goo, so we have a nicely designed neck. So we have a hinge that moves it forward and back, and a ball joint up top, which does ball jointy things and does them incredibly well. The shoulder joint in here is that ball joint on one of these moving forward and back joints that we've seen on the Freedom and the Immortal Justice, so that means these parts will probably, actually, let me check. Can't just be out here jumping to conclusions that this will fit on. So just popping off the arm of the Rising Freedom and then popping it on. So if you want to do yourself some kind of custom, these do fit right out of the box perfectly. The arm itself right here is separate to the shoulder arm, which can move up and down itself like so. We've got the full rotation at the upper arm. There is the elbow joint, so it is a double bend, very nice. Would have been nice to have rotation at the forearm here. We don't have to kind of get the shield in the positions that you want it in. Ball joint wrist, and overall quite nice. When this is attached back on, we've got a lot of forward and back movement, courtesy of that cool new shoulder ball joint. This bends up perfectly like that, and even though I thought this shoulder would get in the way quite a bit because of all the stuff on it, the kind of design of it being separate to the shoulder and above the shoulder like that means that you can move it around out of the way most of the time. So we've got that needle projection system in the chest, so these just open up like so. That's a pair of nice heavy arms-esque hatches in the chest, and this has the color separation, unlike heavy arms. A very nicely designed ab crunch once again, so with both joints we get that. Nothing too crazy. There it is to the back, so overall it is nice, so there to there, but it's even nicer in the side to side movement. Not crazy, but you get enough. Skirting armor is a double ball joint. These are together on the runner, but you can't separate them. Butt flap gets in the way quite a bit. That cannot move. And as for the kicks, there it is all the way up to the front. So yes, this is quite blocked by the fact that it doesn't have that dropping mechanism. There it is out to the back. And there is the split. Somewhat a little bit limited again, and you're going to always knock off these side skirting armors. They don't hold on that well at all. Full rotation though at the upper leg. With the leg off now, this is the bend, so a double point bend, so not too bad at all. And then when it comes down to the ankle, this is a ball joint mixed with a little bit of a hinge, so there's the hinge, and the ball joint gives us that ball joint motion, but the side to side is mildly blocked. The toe, however, does move up and down, which is always incredibly nice. And as for that functional movement on the ground, what we can get out of it without raising the toe or the feet, that is all to the front, a little bit limited. There it is to the back, quite limited, and there's the side to side is okay, but quite limited. This is one of those kits that definitely works out a lot better when it's in poses up in the air. Once again, there is it in that usual test pose, so it does do quite well, but not quite as well as what we saw with the Rising Freedom and the Immortal Justice. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and this is another Platinum Tier Seed Freedom kit, which is all of them so far. So it's kind of getting to the point now that I know I need to kind of spread these across the tiers a little bit more. Every kit being 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5 is getting a bit old. I need to spread that 4 out of 5 apart a little bit more, which is kind of strange because for me, my 5 tiers are essentially 9.2, 9.4, 9.6, 9.8, 10, like that sort of thing. That Gunpla is awesome, the best model kits. Therefore, everything's in the 9 range, and now everything's in that 4 range out of 5, meaning I need to spread it out a little bit more, but what can I say? Anyway, let's go through it. Aesthetically, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It's meant to have some more colors all over it, which of course is a little bit of a down point, but what it does have looks fantastic, and out of box you wouldn't even tell that it's missing colors unless you knew it was meant to. It's a Black Knight designed, well, it's in essence, it's a Gundam. Every design aspect of it says Gundam, so that's what it really is, and it looks killer with those Amatsu Mina colors. When it comes to the accessories in here, it would have been nice to see a bit of a widespread or interesting hand, but that is the only down point. Everything else is really cool, lots of nice weapons, they all work very well, tons and tons of options, and the mantle, depending on if you like it or not, is good or not. It's cool way of pulling off a beam cape. Finally, then, when it does come to the articulation, it is fantastic. It's a little limited in the legs, a little bit, but not too much at all, and you won't notice that when you've got it up in a stand in the air, and this looks amazing in poses. It looks amazing all of the time. As, even though I'm painting over the fact that this is another Platinum Tier kit, that is exactly what it is. It is awesome. It's not getting as much attention as the Freedom and Justice, yet it is as equally good and, in my opinion, cooler looking. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews. I got mine through HobbyLink, link in the description if you want one of your own. As well, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. As always, this video right here would not have been possible without each and every single one of you guys, so thank you so much for watching, and as usual, special thanks to those of you who helped me out over on the channel memberships right here and on Patreon, including Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Dashil Marmion, Go Little Rockstar, Joe, Org59061, 10 Soldier YT, and Van Fawn.